To make our flowers, we're going to be using this DAS modeling clay. It's an air-hardening clay, and it's pretty pliable and easy to acquire. I'm just cutting off a good amount of what I think I'm going to be using for this flower while keeping the rest of my clay airtight. Now I'm grabbing a little small amount here, and I'm going to be creating a cone. Now the amount of how much I'm getting, that's really hard for me to tell you how much it is going to be. It really depends on how big or small you want your flower to be. Now I'm creating a circular cone, and this is what's going to be the center of our rosebud. And now once I think my cone is good to go, I'm going to move on to start creating my petals. To create these types of petals, I'm going to be taking a small ball of clay, and I'm going to smash it with my thumb, as you could see. By rubbing the petal onto the palm of my hand, it allows the petal to acquire a cup-like form. Now for the rose center, we're going to be starting with 3 petals. The clay adheres easily to itself once it's wet. Thus is the reason why I'm using a little cup of water to wet my clay, and also to use it as a glue, as well as to help me smooth out the clay. And now I'm going to be positioning my petals as if one is coming from inside the other, as if we're putting them in a spiral form. And I just want to put a disclaimer out there, you guys. I am not a professional sculptor. These are just techniques that I have learned on my own, whether by watching other people doing it or by also experimenting with it myself. I am a paper flower crafter. I make all of my beautiful roses with paper. So these are just kind of tricks that I'm using, that I have used with paper, and that I am now bringing them into my clay world. And now we're going to continue the rose by creating additional petals. And I don't know if you noticed, but I'm grabbing a little bit more clay, as each petal now has to be just a slightly bigger. And now each of these petals are going to be formed or shaped just a slightly different. We're going to be creating a small cup form on the bottom of the base of the petal, and on the top edge of the petal, we're going to be folding it back. And now from now on, I'm going to be creating several petals, as we're going to be just kneading it for the flower to continue to grow. From time to time, I do like to lay my petal against my flower, just to be sure that I'm getting the right size of petal for what I'm going to be needing. And now I'm just going to go ahead and let you watch the magic. I'm going to let you watch the flower continue to take shape. Remember to use your water to keep your fingers moist. It's going to help smooth out any imperfections on each of your petals, and it's also going to help you to glue each petal to each other, and as well as to the flower. So enjoy the process. Alright, so now that completes the second layer of petals. Now I'm going to start creating the third layer of petals. Now these petals are going to be a little wider in size. So as I'm using my thumb to mold the clay petal, I'm going to be then creating and making them, as you could see, a little wider in shape. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but on the bottom of the petal is a little gather there, and that is so that it could create more of a cup form, the base of the petal. And now I'm going to go ahead and use my water to quote unquote glue my petal onto the existing flower. And I'm going to be allowing the petal to kind of hang or be a little bit disconnected to the rest of the flower, just to hang out and start opening my rose. And I'm going to continue doing that with the rest of the petals that I'm going to be adding. And now don't be fixated on the amount of petals that you have to add to your rose. That is going to depend on the size of rose that you want to create. And it also depends on how you're positioning each of your petals. Because if you notice on a natural rose, as the flower begins to bloom, the petals are going to be spaced out, are going to be kind of hanging out, is going to be blooming. The rose is going to be blooming. The tighter the rose is going to tell you that your rose is going to be more of a newer stage, closer to the bud, closer to the center. I don't know if I'm explaining myself correctly, but you will see each one of your flowers that you start making. You'll see when is a good time to stop. You will notice, and it also depends on really what kind of flower you want to create and the space you want to use. Now, if you notice on the bottom, there was a little bit of clay that was hanging out. I didn't need it, so you will see all of that. So just experiment with that. Give yourself the freedom to just play with your hands and use your creativity. And I think this rose has now come to the end of the road here. At least this is the way I like it. I'm going to be taking some plastic bag just to lay my flower, and it also to make sure that it doesn't stick to any of the surface, so that as it dries. I am also using the plastic bag to support or separate any of the petals that I think may need a little bit of extra support. And now I'm going to let this baby dry overnight. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to style using these roses that I have created. Now I'm going to be using these two picture frames, and both were found at the Dollar Tree. For this one, I'm going to be removing the glass as well as the paper insert, and I'm only going to be using the cardboard part of the backing of that frame. I'm going to be using some E6000, and I'm going to be flooding the inside of the surface using the E6000, and I'm going to then use a spatula to spread it around. Have you noticed that I left a little opening in the very middle of that square? So the center of that square, I'm not going to be using any glue. I'm also going to be adding some reindeer moss onto that glue, on top of that glue, and start using or laying that flower, the one that we just made. We're going to be laying it on top. But first, we're going to be adding just a little bit of details by painting this rose. I'm using 3 different shades of pink, one much lighter, one about a little darker, and one that is a slightly taupey in color, like a taupey rose color. And once I have painted the entire rose from the inside as well as the underneath the petals, I'm going to be using some wood glue to glue it onto my frame. All right, if you have made it this far into the video, I so appreciate you. I appreciate your time, your viewing, and would love to know, what do you think about this rose? Is it easy enough? Are you going to be trying it? What would you have done differently? And I also want to invite you to check out my page on Facebook under His Girls Designs Official. I have added the link to that Facebook page on the description box. You will find that link. I go live for crafting about 4 times a week, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So I hope that you could be able to check it out and see how many of these things are done live. All right, so I don't know if you have noticed, but throughout the entire video, I have had another rose next to me, a pink one, and that is the one that I made during my live Facebook show, and that's the first one. And now this is the second Dollar Tree frame that we're going to be decorating. I'm using a scrapbooking page that is just musical notes, and it has that nice vintage coloring. We're going to be adding this page to the top of the glass. So I'm going to be using some Mod Podge, and to be sure that this page is nicely adhered to the glass, because we're going to be laying it on top of the glass. And now we're going to be placing the paper on top of it, making sure that that we're pressing down. That way everything is adhering nicely. And we're going to just insert it back into the frame. And lastly, I'm going to be adding that flower, that pink flower that I have previously made. I'm going to be gluing onto the middle of that paper using some wood glue as well. Now you will see on the final product that I did add a few things off camera. Like for example, I did add the word bloom. I stamped it on the piece of fabric, and I added it to the bottom of this frame right underneath that flower, that pink flower. And as well, you also notice that I added some gold edging to the other flower, to the other one that was on the gray frame. So I hope you like those two, and I hope that you liked and enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give it a like and leave me a comment, and follow me on Instagram and Facebook. We'd love to connect with you there. And thank you so much for liking, subscribing, and for spending some time with me today. And if you would like to see some more of my creations, please check the video that follows.